Yeah, it's done. So we'll go over one more thing. So we've been making a lot of our floaters based off of primitives, which is fine, right? They look cool and stuff like that. But if you guys are making anything a little bit more ornate, a little bit different, right? If it's fantasy armor, if you're doing something a little bit more like future tech, right, where it's a lot more like smooth lines and stuff like that, a lot of it's kind of a pain in the butt to try and start modeling from a primitive. So for us 3D Max users, we have splines to work with. um, so splines they're 2D shapes that we could turn into 3D, and they're messy as shit sometimes, but they're really nice for a lot of things. So if you guys want to use them, if you go under the Create menu, under Geometry, it's not under Geometry, sorry, it's right beside it under Shapes. There's a bunch of shapes in there too. They're all 2D shapes, but if you click on the Line tool, you can work in your top viewport, and this is basically like a pen tool in Photoshop or whatever else. You're basically going to be setting out verts, so you can click once to make a vert, and you'll have a line attached to it. You can click and hold to your wherever you're going to place your next vert to start making a Bezier curve, and you can let go and then start making curves. And once you're done, you can attach them together. So obviously this is a really stupid shape. But if I wanted to make something really nice and ornate for whatever reason, this is the way, you know, I would go about doing it. So if I wanted to make some sort of looking, you know, fire sphere looking, all right, and so the way I work with these things is I'm not overly concerned that it looks perfect when I first make them. Because they're really easy to adjust. So once you've built your shape, you can go to the Modify panel, and it has the same things like Edit Poly, just a few less options. You can select any of these verts, and you can move them around. You can move their handles around, and work with them to get your shapes, you know, just right. You know, work it any way you want. If you know, get your curves just right. We'll go over splines some more as we make these things. And then this one here is a corner, so it's you see it's a hard break there. If you ever don't like the type of handle or point this is, you can right click on it and then change it to, right now it's set on corner, you can change it to Bezier, which will make it nice and smooth, and then you can adjust from there. The thing to know about splines, or like the best tip I could give you, is the fewer points the better. You'll get smoother curves and stuff like that. You start adding too many points to try and over control it, you're going to get yourself into a lot of trouble, and you're going to start trying to fix things that are going to be impossible to fix. So do a lot less, do more with less. So in the end, once you're done your shape, you're going to have just a 2D shape. It's nothing right now. But you can go into your modifiers and add an extrude, or you can right click and convert it to an editable poly, and it'll make a 2D mesh for you. Right now, the problem with them is it's one polygon. If you try and mesh smooth it, it's going to do that. So they're not great for that kind of thing. But what I like to do with them is, oh, I didn't add it in here either. I like to, I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to add a bevel modifier. I'm going to add a bevel, and bevel will let you do a few things. So in here you can do your start level, so you could extrude it one time. Then you can select add a second level, so you could extrude it a second time. You'll see it's starting to extrude it more. And then I could do an outline, so this will let me outline it inwards however much I want. You got to be careful around your end points so it doesn't destroy it for you. And I could do a third one. Sometimes you have to enter these manually. And that way you could start getting at least a better looking kind of mesh there. And then what we can do is, I'll delete the bottom face because I don't need it. And what I would generally do is go through and connect all these edges myself. More or less. And this way it'll help the mesh smooth kind of understand how I want it to smooth, so it doesn't start trying to smooth from here to like over here. And again, splines, although really pretty and cool, definitely are messy and ugly when you do try and mesh smooth them. So use them, you know, not sparingly, but just know that. So even when I turbo smooth this, you're going to start getting a lot of ugliness in there. Sometimes you have to mesh smooth it a lot. But you can get some really funky shapes. Otherwise, trying to box model this would be the worst, right? So what I'll usually do is I'll you know, make sure these are for floaters or for things like that and all that. So I just chamfered them a little bit, so it'll only be a little bit of a thing in there. I didn't give it like a wide base. But again, things for like armor, if you want to do really cool, ornate, you know, crazy fucking dragons and shit, really good for that, right? I mean, you could always bring in textures and do it in Photoshop too, but if there's anything that you really, really need that needs to be 3D, you know, splines are the way to go. Depends on what you're doing, right? Again, if you're doing fantasy or whatever, we probably won't be doing too much of it for the sci-fi stuff, but always good to know. So it's kind of a really crash course on splines. Online on that website there is a tutorial that's just for splines, but we will go over it in the course again. So so spend the next week making floaters if you have time. If you don't have time, that's fine too. You know, you'll have the ones you have, and then also go through the link that I gave you and pick out one of these guys. All right, try and pick it out based on your confidence in your skills. So if you want to make this thing, go for it. You know, and if you just want to make a cool light fixture, that's sweet.
Cool light pictures.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, the complicated stuff. I'm working on that.
And that's fine, right? So there's a lot of, you know, if you just want to do a sweet looking crate, having a sweet looking crate in your fucking portfolio is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, right? You don't need to have this, right? Yeah, like it's totally fine, right? So pick something that you're confident with. If you pick a crate and you finish it early, you know, we work through it and you're confident, you want to start something else. You know, even if while we're doing high poly, you finish your high poly, you could start on a second one and just kind of start getting there too. That's fine. So, you know, pick whatever you feel your skill level's at and your time commitment's at. If you're only going to be working at it in class, obviously pick something a little simpler. If you're going to be dedicating 10 hours in between classes, then sure, go to town, right? Model all 12 of these or however many there are. So pick one out for next week. You know, think about it. Again, if you want to find one of your own, these are mainly Halo ones. This one's from friends of mine. They concepted that out from just on their website. So if you want to find something of your own, that's fine too. But anyways, that'll be that for this week, and come back with an idea of what you want to do next week, and we'll go.